Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here today as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, television, all sorts of things like that. When you get to join me and everybody else who's in the chat board there joining with you. Big favor to ask, guys. A lot of people have seen fan screenings of Justice League at that point. I'm going to ask you guys who are watching live, please don't be one of those, bottom feeders. Please don't put spoilers in the chat board. Just don't be one of those people. Let's not spoil things for everybody else. That would be great. Thank you very much. All right, guys, here's how today's going to go. I got a bunch of topics that you guys have sent in to me that we're going to talk about today. How do you get a topic on the John Campea Show? It's really simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com, and make sure you guys put that word topic in the subject line. If you don't have the word topic in the subject line, I'm not going to see it. And of course, as always, keep the emails to 90 words or less, or else I wouldn't even be able to fit it on the screen if I wanted to. Okay, I'm going to tell you, one of the things that's come up is this Rotten Tomatoes thing. And I'm going to save it for a little bit later. But when I put the show notes together, I didn't know what was going on with the whole Rotten Tomatoes thing in Justice League. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to get to it in a few minutes. But if I seem a little agitated today, it's because of this BS that's going on with Rotten Tomatoes. I will get to that in just a few minutes, why it bothers me so much, especially as somebody, for those of you guys who watch me for any period of time, I am a massive Rotten Tomatoes defender. You guys all know this. Just yesterday, once again, I was arguing with people defending Rotten Tomatoes and why I believe it's such a pinnacle, it's such an important piece of the film fan community and all that kind of stuff, and I defend it, and I defend it, and I defend it, and I defend it, and then they pull this type of BS that just pisses me off. But anyway, we'll get to that in just a little bit. Right now, we got a bunch of questions you guys sent in. And by the way, guys, after I'm done with all the topics that you guys have emailed into me, I'm going to save some time near the end of the show for those of you guys who are watching live. And I know there's a whole ton of you watching live right now. I'm going to save some time near the end of the show, take your live comments and questions. And I'm going to take those through Twitter. And all you have to do when we get closer to the end of the show is tweet to me at John Campea. That's it. Just send to me at John Campea, and I'll get just as many of your tweets as possible on the show. Maybe you'll see your tweet on the bottom of the screen here. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's dive into the first topic today. And the first topic today comes to us from Jeremy Morris, who writes, I read that the video game Hitman is going to be a TV series on Hulu. Is this true? If so, don't you think the TV show can succeed, or do you think the TV show can succeed where the movies didn't? I thought the second one was okay, but neither hit it out of the park for me. Your thoughts? And yes, the plight of the video game movie continues, or in this case, the video game TV show. Look, we said forever, and I've said forever, there are two immutable laws in life. Number one, death. Number two, video game movies suck. I mean, that's just kind of been the thing. There have been some that haven't been overtly terrible, like Assassin's Creed was completely terrible, but there have been a couple that have been okay. Actually, I'm with you on this. I actually thought the second Hitman movie was okay. I mean, yeah, was it cheesy and all that kind of stuff? Yes. Could you tell it was a lower budget film? Yes. But I thought what they did with that lower budget was actually really fun. And I had a pretty good time with it, to be honest with you. Now, full disclosure, I am actually friends with one of the producers of Hitman. So I want to be fully open about that. So there's, there's no appearance of impartiality here. I am friends with one of the guys, but I did not like the first one. I'll be open and honest about that. I didn't think the second one knocked it out of the park, but I did think it had some good things going for it, and I enjoyed it. The idea of moving it to television, particularly on Hulu. I'm a big fan of Hulu. Now, whenever the online streaming discussion happens, it's always Netflix, it's Amazon, it's Google Play, for good reason, but I am a big fan of Hulu. I've been a subscriber to Hulu for years. I really enjoy it. I have like one of their Max packages. I just love the service, and but the one thing that I haven't really dug with them is much of their original programming. They haven't been super strong with their original programming, although they just, isn't that, the Telltale, Handmaiden's Tale, that's a Hulu show, right? And it just won the Emmy. But for overall, I haven't been super impressed for me for their original content. The idea of them getting involved more in original content and a movie and a property like Hitman, and who knows, maybe where the video game movies have struggled on the big screen, maybe Hitman can lead the way and point the way for some success for video game properties on television. And again, I'm really intrigued by the fact that they went with Hulu. Because again, I'm a big Hulu fan. I really like what they do there. Now, here's one of the really key interesting things here, okay? The creator and writer of the John Wick movies, a guy, I've never pronounced his name right, Derek Kolstad. So Derek Kolstad, who wrote and created John Wick 1, John Wick 2, and he's writing John Wick 3, he's on as an executive producer of this new show, and he is writing the pilot for the new show. So he's setting the tone. That's kind of exciting. So that lends itself, so you get a guy like this who's done John Wick into a property like Hitman. That can be really positive. That could be really good. I'm excited to see how this turns out and what it turns into. Will it be just the next incarnation of a video game property that fails? Or could this be something that sparks some new avenues for the video game industry with going with television series instead of movies? Let's see how that all works out. All right, thanks a lot for the question. Let's move on now to the next one. And the next question today comes to us from Abram Ren, who writes, "Hey, John. Big fan. I see all your videos every day." Oh, thank you so much, Abram. I wanted to ask, since the Dark Universe seems about dead, yeah, it does, doesn't it, at this point, do you think it would be a good idea if blumhouse took over and made low-budget horror movies with the Universal monsters? Well, yeah, look, this whole thing about the Universal Dark Universe, which had some potential, but Universal just played their hand completely wrong with this entire thing. They put on a masterclass of how not to launch a cinematic universe. Announcing 5 movies and 18 different movie stars, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and you hadn't even put out one movie yet. Like, it's fine to say, hey, we've got a plan for a cinematic universe. Great. We're going to launch it with The Mummy. Great. We're even looking at our second film being this. Fine. And then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, we're bringing this guy, we're bringing this guy, we're going to do this, and then we're all going to go to Disneyland, and we're going to play in the beach in Mexico, and we're going to do all these wonderful things, and you hadn't even launched the first movie yet. And now, the people at Universal, and look, I'm one of the guys who, I didn't hate The Mummy. I actually thought The Mummy was okay. I think The Mummy gets more criticism than it warrants. I thought The Mummy was okay. But it wasn't great. And it's like, right, Universal has completely embarrassed themselves with how they manage this whole thing. Even launching this, and we're calling it the Dark Universe. Really? You haven't put out one film yet, and you're already naming your cinematic universe? Anyway, it was a masterclass in how not to launch a film franchise. So clearly, and now the Bride of Frankenstein thing, that's off the things. The 2 guys, including Alex Kurtzman, who were shepherding and running this whole Dark Universe thing, they've now left, and they're going off to do different things now. This thing was just a disaster. Absolute disaster, which is unfortunate because it had a lot of potential, a lot of upside. So the question then becomes, well, hey, these guys at Blumhouse, they seem to be knocking it out of the park with these low-budget films. And I don't think that becomes the answer. This reminds me a little bit about, like, after Lord of the Rings came out, everybody wanted every movie to be directed by Peter Jackson. Oh, you know who should direct that movie about Peter Pan? Peter Jackson should direct that. You know who should write that? You know who should direct that upcoming bank robber movie? Peter Jackson. You know who should direct this low-budget porn that's being shot at the college up the street? Peter Jackson. After the Dark Knight movies came out, everything was Christopher Nolan should direct everything. New X-Men movie? Have Christopher Nolan direct that. A new biopic on Jim Henson? Have Christopher Nolan. Like, everything had to be directed thing. And right now, I feel like in a lot of online conversations, it's anything horror related. They should. Blumhouse should do it. There's more than just Blumhouse. But look, Blumhouse has been kicking it. I mean, Blumhouse has been crushing it, no doubt. I'm a big fan of Blum. I actually had Jason Blum in my studio one time. Sat down with him for about an hour. Got to talk to him. Super level-headed guy. Super nice guy. All that kind of stuff. And I'm a big fan of what they do. But for Blumhouse is so great because they do what they do great. You're looking at a film like Happy Death Day or looking at the other types of films they do, the smaller budget, whatever. To me, though, if you're going to do The Mummy, I'll be honest with you. Look, I don't want a $200 million Mummy, but I don't want a small budget The Mummy. I don't want a small budget, really cool little indie feeling Wolfman movie. I want a motion picture, and there's something royal about the Universal Classic Monsters. The Universal Classic Monsters are Hollywood royalty. And to me, they represent the cinema, you know what I mean? And while I love Blumhouse, and I like just check out just everything they do, and I'm so impressed with the way they do business and the way they make their films and the way they handle themselves, huge fan. But these types of movies, I would rather see a studio like Universal do them, but do them right. Get over this, everything's got to be shared cinematic universe. And look, if you want to do a shared cinematic universe, let it evolve. Let it pick up. Let it naturally come about. Let it come about organically. You do The Mummy, and if it worked, then you do the next film, and then you put in a little Easter egg tie into the first one, and then you develop it. That's not the only way to do it, but it's probably the way they should have done this. Instead, they just crap the bed, which is really unfortunate. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. And this next topic comes to us from Matthew Fraser. And Matthew Fraser writes, on a previous show, you talked about Disney having to spend billions to buy Netflix. My question is, wouldn't Disney removing their content from the service cause a large enough decline in subscription total to make a noticeable loss? Okay, so basically what Matthew's talking about is the other day, somebody wrote in a question saying, hey, if Marvel was, or if Disney was thinking about buying some Fox properties in order to compete better with Netflix in online streaming, why not just buy Netflix? And what I explained was, is the money. Okay, so Netflix, their estimated business value right now is around $60 billion. They generate a little over $1 billion a month in revenue. And I don't care if you're Apple, I don't care if you're Disney, I don't care whatever. $60 billion is not something you got sitting around in your pocket. On top of that, I don't even think Netflix would accept an offer of $60 billion because that might be their value right now, but they know their value is only going up. They are dominating the space more and more and more, and the space they're in, online streaming entertainment, is taking over a bigger and bigger segment of the entertainment demographic as well. So they know their value is only going up. So even if Disney wanted to come up and write a check for $60 billion, which they can't, but even if they wanted to do that, Netflix wouldn't accept it. So Matthew raises an interesting question. Okay, yes, but if Disney starts pulling their content off, won't that like really just tank the value of Netflix? And I don't think it would. I don't think it would. Now, yeah, okay, so Avengers won't be on there anymore. But guess what? There's thousands of movies on there. Okay, Daredevil wouldn't be on there anymore. Okay, but guess what? Netflix has tens of thousands of episodes of older television shows that everybody watches. Like, yeah, we'd lose a couple of shows. But like here, I just brought up a little bit of a list here. Some of the most popular Netflix shows have nothing to do with Disney. Like House of Cards with Kevin Spacey, but House of Cards changed the game for Netflix. It really put Netflix on the map as a creator of original content. BoJack Horseman is super popular right now. Orange is the New Black, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Bloodline, Master of None, Narcos, Sense8. I had a whole list here. Oh, the most popular show on Netflix, by the way, is not a Marvel show. It's Stranger Things, The Crown, a series of Fish and Gets, the new Dear White People, Get Down. Like, Netflix is loaded with content. So you pull the Disney stuff out there, would it create a bump? Yeah, it would create a bump, but honestly, it's not going to affect Netflix all that much. Will there be an effect? Yes, there will be an effect, but an effect where it's like, instead of 60 billion, now Netflix will only be worth 21 billion? No, it might bump it to the case where it's 60 billion, now it's worth 57 billion. I mean, really, it's not going to affect it that much. And Netflix is just pouring more and more money into their original content. They already said they're going to try to produce like, what was it, 40 or 50 original movies a year for their service, like Netflix originals, not to mention all the TV stuff that they're doing. They are a beast right now, just a beast. And Disney pulling their stuff off, will it be disruptive? Yeah, a little bit, but honestly, I don't see it making that big of a difference. Just my thought. What do you guys think? Jump into the comment section. Let me know what you think. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Simone Umba, who writes, With Avatar supposedly set to release in 2020, it adds to the list of upcoming releases. Fast 9, Indiana Jones 5, Godzilla vs. King Kong. Would it be risky for a studio to set a release date for a movie in 2020 now, since it's got so tight-packed now? Could Avatar push its release date up against an upcoming film? Well, thanks a lot for the question. And this is a type of question that I've actually been getting a lot of recently, saying, like, looking forward to 2018 or 2019. John, June 2019 is packed. Should they move movies out? Blah, 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 blah. But here's the reality. Every movie year is packed. That's just the reality of things now. Every movie season is packed, other than maybe January, other than maybe September, things like that. But all the key movie seasons are packed. Christmas season is packed every year. The summer season is packed every year. Now we're getting that April-May window is now becoming really packed. There are so many motion pictures being produced that they're all packed. Every year is packed. Every season is packed. If it's not one movie, it's 5 others. So, no, look, if you're in the movie industry, you make your movie and you just put it out whenever you think is the best time to put it out. That's all you can do. Yes, you become aware of the competition. You don't want to get in the way of Star Wars, which we're going to talk about in a second. You don't want to be on the same release date as another semi-big movie that is going after the exact same demographic as you. You want to separate 1 or 2 weeks between yourself and one of those, but that's not terribly hard to do. You can do that. But overall, I mean, we're just in an era of the movies where there are more movies being produced today than in any other time in history. More wide release films being released than any other time in history. And so that means there's going to be 3 or 4 other films that want to open on the same day as you, let alone the same month, let alone the same year. So you can't really worry about that too much. Again, just try to stay out of the way of the huge juggernauts. Try to stay out of the way of other films that are going after the similar demographic to you. Probably your studio and their studio need to get together, chat, and agree upon release dates for your individual films so you don't get in each other's way too much. Other than that, there's not much else you can do. It's a competitive marketplace, but that's good for you and me, the consumer. That's good. All right, let's move on now to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Linda Marcini. And Linda Marcini writes, with Ben Affleck sounding more and more like his days as Batman are numbered, looks like you were right all along. My question isn't who should replace him, because I know you hate those questions, but rather, who should they replace? Replace Affleck as Bruce Wayne, or replace Bruce Wayne as Batman? Nightwing, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character, Thomas Wayne as Batman? What are your thoughts? That's the million-dollar question right now. Is, okay, let's assume for a second, by the way, there still exist possibilities Ben Affleck comes back as Batman. Let's not write that out. You obviously know what I believe and what I have been telling you, but look, the reality is there's still, as long as the sun comes up tomorrow, there's a possibility minds could change at the studio, minds could change at the Affleck household. That's all good. But this is an interesting question. If Ben leaves, or if Ben is removed, whichever one you want to go for, what do you do? Do you replace Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne and get another actor to play Bruce Wayne who is Batman, or do you go another route and instead of replacing Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne, you replace Bruce Wayne as Batman and say have Nightwing, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Armie Hammer as Dick Grayson, comes back from doing his stuff in Bloodhaven, he comes back and he takes up the mantle of the Bat for Bruce Wayne. Which way do you go? Now, my preference, and I've always said this, my preference on this, if this happens, would be just recast. Yes, Ben is the best Batman we've ever had. I'm a huge Ben Affleck fan. I will always be a big Ben Affleck fan. But there are other great actors out there. So if Ben steps out or if Ben is removed, get another great actor in. As long as it's a great actor, I'm happy. But that does still leave open the possibility for things like replacing Bruce Wayne. Now, no, I don't want to get into this whole Batman Beyond thing. The general movie-going audience doesn't give 2 squirts of piss about Batman Beyond. I'm sorry if you love Batman Beyond. That's great. I'm not saying Batman Beyond isn't great, but the reality is the average movie-going audience does not give 2 squats of piss about Batman Beyond. And that's indisputable. That's just indisputable. I'm not saying the show isn't great. I'm not saying it's not great. I don't like it, but nothing wrong if you love it. That's fantastic. I know a lot of people that love that show. But then you could go different routes. I don't think the Joseph Gordon-Levitt character is coming back because this is not the same universe as the Christopher Nolan Batman stuff, okay? So that Joseph Gordon-Levitt character does not exist. But could you bring in somebody in? Could you bring an Azrael in? Maybe, like in the comics, maybe Azrael takes up the mantle of the Bat. Maybe you get the Dick Grayson thing. That seems to make the most sense. If you're going to replace Bruce Wayne as Batman, it seems to me the most logical thing to do then is go the Dick Grayson route and have Dick Grayson come in and take up the mantle of the Bat. That seems to make the most sense. But still, for me, my money would be on just recast. It's heartbreaking. It would be horrible. I wanted Ben Affleck writing and directing and starring in 17 Batman films. But if that can't happen, then just recast. It's just that simple. All right, guys, we move on to the final emailed in topic today. And the final email topic in today comes to us from Roberto De Salva, who writes, as anticipated, the Wonder Woman sequel has moved to November. But with it being announced that both Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot are locked in to return, does that mean that Warner Brothers reached an agreement with Brett Ratner not to produce Wonder Woman 2 since Gadot said she wouldn't do the movie otherwise? Thanks a lot for the question. And yes, as everybody predicted, as everybody knew, the moment Lucasfilm announced that they were moving Star Wars Episode 9 to December of 2019 in a little neighborhood where Wonder Woman 2 was dwelling, we all knew it's only a matter of time now before Warner Brothers moves Wonder Woman. Warner Brothers are not a bunch of stubborn sticks in the mud going, no, we were here first. No, they're way too smart for that. They very intelligently decided to move. The only question was, would they move Wonder Woman 2 into 2020, or would they move it a little bit earlier? Well, we got our answer yesterday. They announced, Warner Brothers came out and officially announced, they have moved the release date for Wonder Woman 2 to November 1st. So they moved it up 6 weeks. So they actually moved it earlier to November 1st, which I think is a really good date. Because you're talking, look at this year with November with superhero films. Thor Ragnarok, it's crushing it at the box office. Justice League is probably going to crush at the box office. So clearly, good, high marquee value superhero films in November can crush it. So they moved it into November, which was really smart. Now, this whole thing about Brett Ratner, remember, this was all revolving around a single report that came out from Page 6. And I did a video on this. And even at the beginning of that video, I said, look, guys, Page 6 is not always the most reliable. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're not. So let us not assume that what Page 6 is saying is true. Let's not assume it's not true. But hey, let's discuss it right now just for the sake of discussing it. As it turns out, I think that report was probably false. We got some denials from Warner Brothers, which could just be PR spin, but it just doesn't seem to make sense. Plus, if you understand the deal that Rat Pack had with Warner Brothers, and there is an expiry date on that thing, I don't think that was ever a truly legitimate thing. So I don't think there's any problem there with Gal Gadot or with the Brett Ratner situation. I think that was never an issue in the first place. So that's why we moved on from that. All right, guys, now I'm going to get to the one topic that I did not put in the description because this kind of came up last second. And I'm going to be honest with you, I am really, as a film fan, I mean, look, let's put this in perspective. This is first world problems at its best, okay? This is first world problems. But as a film fan, as a Rotten Tomatoes defender, as somebody who has so vocally defended Rotten Tomatoes and endorsed Rotten Tomatoes and championed Rotten Tomatoes, right up until yesterday, I was championing Rotten Tomatoes. This thing, maybe on its surface, it may not look like a big deal, but to me, it is a flagrant disrespect to film fans and fans of Rotten Tomatoes and people who have supported Rotten Tomatoes. Here's the situation. A couple of weeks ago, when Bad Moms was coming out, Rotten Tomatoes pulled this little stunt with Bad Moms, which was not a big thing because Bad Moms Christmas was not going to be a massively big movie in the first place. So we all know this. But Bad Moms was coming out, and Rotten Tomatoes pulled this little stunt where they go, you know what? We're going to hold off, because normally on Rotten Tomatoes, as soon as reviews start coming out, the Rotten Tomato meter starts to reflect the reviews that are coming out. But Rotten Tomatoes pulled this little stunt with Bad Moms Christmas where they go, we're holding the Rotten Tomato meter until X time, and we're going to reveal the Rotten Tomatoes score on our Facebook show, See It, Skip It, Saw It, Did It, Who It's, What's It. I don't even know what the hell the name of the show is. It's stupid. Anyway, so they decide we're going to do this thing, and I thought, well, Honestly, I didn't think too much of it. I was just like, okay, well, that's a cheap move. That's a really cheap move. But okay, whatever. You're trying to get a little bit of pop for this show. You're trying desperately to launch this show. And you're trying desperately. It's a little Facebook show they got. And you're desperately trying to promote it. Whatever. Okay, it's Bad Moms Christmas. Not a lot of people are like... It's not like Bad Moms Christmas was on a lot of people's top 5 must-see films of 2017, right? Then it comes out that they're pulling the same stunt with Justice League. Easily, I think, the #2 most anticipated film of the year. For some people, it's the #1 most anticipated film of the year. And they've decided to do with this, pulling this cheap bullshit gimmick in a desperate attempt to try to force and manipulate you to watch their Facebook show. Here's why it bothers me. And you know what? Maybe tomorrow will come. And let me admit this right up front. Maybe tomorrow comes and I go, I don't feel as strongly about it now. Maybe I overreact. You know, let me admit right up front. I'll say it. You don't have to say it. I'll say it. Maybe I'm overreacting a little bit. I'll say it. Yeah. Tomorrow I may very well have that opinion. Okay. I'll just put that out there right now. But here's why it bothers me so much. Okay. John, is it really that bad that a website trying to launch a show pulls a little bit of a gimmick to try to get the people to force people to watch their thing? Here's why it bothers me. For years, Rotten Tomatoes has explicitly and implicitly tried to position themselves as an integral part of the fan community. And idiots like me have supported that and have encouraged that and have promoted that. That Rotten Tomatoes is a pillar, an important piece in the online film fan community experience. That they are balanced, they are impartial, because all they are is strict numbers. They just go out, take the reviews that people are saying, and they tell you this is the percentage of critics that like a film, this is the percentage of critics that don't like a film. It's pure, it's simple, and it's valuable information. It's valuable information to have. Some people, right or wrong, and that's another debate for another time, whether this is right or wrong, but some people rely on Rotten Tomatoes to help them make informed decisions about where they want to spend their entertainment money. So, for years, Rotten Tomatoes, with idiots like me waving the Rotten Tomatoes flag and championing Rotten Tomatoes, has presented itself to the film fan community as we are one of the pillars in the fan community. We are here. We are reliable. We are impartial. We are going to be here for you. We want to be a part of the overall movie-going experience for film fans everywhere, blah, blah, blah. And part of that is that as reviews start to come out, they put up their score and blah, 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 blah. And so, over the years, fans have come to trust them. A number of critics, like myself, have come to trust them. A number of critics and pundits like myself come to quote them and refer to them and encourage people to make a Rotten Tomatoes experience or a Metacritic or whatever else a part of their film-going experience to help them make informed decisions and to help add some interesting things to film debate. Because Rotten Tomatoes scores are not the be and end all, but they're really great, interesting facts and figures to have in any kind of a movie debate as well. It's incredibly useful. So here you are, setting yourself up as this bastion of the film fan community, that we do this, and you kind of position yourself to make sure that film fans come to rely on you. Now, right or wrong that film fans rely on them, the fact of the matter is a lot of, especially average film-going fans, rely on Rotten Tomatoes. And then what do? You take that trust, you take that reliance, you take that good faith that you have fostered with the film fan community, and the film fan community has decided to invest in you. That good faith, that trust, that reliance, the film fan community has invested a lot of that in you. That thing that you fostered and whatever. And then what do you do with it? You screw them with it. You take what is, for some people, the most anticipated film of the year, and you decide to make that the film that you're going to dangle the carrot and say, oh, you want to know what it is? We're not going to show it to you. If you want to be the first person to see it, you got to come and watch our Facebook show. You leverage that trust, that good faith, and that reliance that film pundits like myself, that film fans have over the years, decided to invest in you, and you decide to use that as leverage to manipulate people into going over and watching one of your shows? That's terrible. Or as Charles Barkley would say, terrible. That's terrible. That is terrible of you to do that. That is absolutely awful. That is Bush League, as Bret Hart would say. Totally Bush League of you guys to do that. And maybe, you know what, admittedly, part of the reason why I think I'm getting so upset about this is because I feel like an idiot being somebody who has championed this site for so long. Like, there's hardly a day that goes by that I don't reference Rotten Tomatoes because I believe it's a useful metric tool for us for film discussion. And I champion it and I talk about it. And now I feel like I've been duped. The fact that they would take that trust, that they would take that good faith and turn it against their fans to try to get them to manipulate for their own benefit to come over and watch this new show they got. It's awful. And again, full admission here. Maybe I'm the one who's overreacting. Yep, totally possibly. Maybe I'm a little bit too wrapped up in the film fan community. Maybe I just love the whole idea of the film fan community and what each of the different parts have to it. Maybe I'm too invested in it. Maybe. But this really freaking bothers me that they would do this. It really does. And I would hate to think, and you know what, I don't really believe this, but I've had some people, you know, messaging with me and suggesting this. Here's the thing that people are suggesting. You know what? It's funny when people would say, going back about a year, saying, Rotten Tomatoes is biased against Warner Brothers. You do know that. Look up who owns Rotten Tomatoes, by the way. You do know that Warner Brothers is one of the owners of Rotten Tomatoes, right? And then, like, when people would have to tell me, Rotten Tomatoes has a bias against, they're trying to sink Warner Brothers on purpose. They're kind of owned by Warner Brothers. Anyway, I would hate to suggest that Warner Brothers has anything to do with this, and this is just another step in Warner Brothers trying to hide the reviews. Which would be ludicrous because, you know, the social media reaction was positive. The reaction from the critics of social media has been positive. So, look, I don't believe that. I don't believe that Warner Brothers put them up to it. But there are some people out there who are seeing this as a really nefarious thing, that this is Warner Brothers exerting their influence to force reviews to be hidden till the last possible second. I don't actually believe that. I think because the social media reviews have been positive, so I don't think that makes much sense. But still, it just comes back down to the main point. You have conditioned the film fan community to trust in you, to go to you as early in advance as possible for these ratings that we see coming out. And then you decide to screw the audience by using that trust against them. And that is, I do not accept that. That's horrible. I'm not going to sit here and go, I am hereby boycotting Rotten Tomatoes. I'm not saying that. But I will go as far as to say, as somebody who has put a lot of trust and a lot of promotion and been a big flag waver of Rotten Tomatoes right up to about 16 hours ago, I am really disappointed. I am really, really disappointed as a film fan. Again, first world problem in the best case scenario, maybe overreacting, but I mean, this is just BS. Absolute BS. Rotten Tomatoes, the respect I had for them as a company, as an operation, and their place in the film fan community, my respect for them has taken a huge hit. Huge hit. So anyway, and again, hey, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe you have a totally different way of looking at it than I do. That's fine. Maybe I get too wrapped up and too caught up in stuff like this. Maybe I put too high of an importance on this sort of stuff. Maybe. Totally possible. I might be out to lunch. There are thousands of you right now watching me thinking, this dude's crazy. Maybe. That's totally possible. Maybe I'm just nuts. But I think this is underhanded, and I think this is bullshit. I really do. And yeah, as somebody who's been a champion of Rotten Tomatoes for a long time, I'm really disappointed, and I'm wondering if I will ever trust them again. Anyway, and again, tomorrow I'll probably wake up on tomorrow's episode of the John Campea Show, me going, guys, I watched my episode yesterday. I really overreacted. That could possibly happen. I don't know, but we'll see. But really, what do you guys think about this? Like, how do you see this whole situation? Do you see it like me? Do you agree it's kind of underhanded, but just not as underhanded as I'm presenting it? Do you think it's perfectly fine and rational for them to do it? Leave me your thoughts. I do want to hear your opinions on this. All right, guys, now, that's all the topics out of the way. I am now getting ready to go over to your live Twitter questions. For those of you guys who are watching live, I'm going to go and take your live tweets here in just a second. But before we get to that, I'm going to do my little daily commercial break. This, of course, is my shameless plug every day for the people that make my shows even possible, and that's my Patreon supporters. Here, check this out. For those of you who have followed me for any period of time, you guys know that I made the decision recently to leave the corporate overlords. I no longer wanted to work for corporations. I wanted to be an independent content creator. And the only way I've been able to do that is by the support of my Patreon supporters. So what I would like to do is to ask you guys who watch my shows, who spend any amount of time with me every single month, to consider going over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. There you'll get all the information about what exactly does it mean to be a Patreon supporter of mine? What does being a Patreon supporter do for helping to make sure that shows like this one and all the other shows I do here on my channel can actually be produced? And on top of that, what benefits are there to being a Patreon supporter? And maybe if you guys can check that out, if you decide you want to be one of my Patreon supporters, that would be awesome. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine too. I'm just happy that you guys have decided to be here today and be a fellow movie fan and join us in the conversation. So go and check out the website, see if you want to become a Patreon supporter. And now let's get back. All right, guys, again, thank you to all of you guys who are already Patreon supporters. And if you aren't yet and you're checking out that page, thank you so much. I appreciate that very much. All right, guys, I said I was going to save a bunch of time to go to your live tweets, and I'm going to do that right now. I'm sure it's going to be an interesting day of discussion here on the John Campea Show. So let's go over to the first live tweet, and let's see this. The first live tweet I'm taking in comes to us from Austin, Maine, who writes, John, Star Wars live action show, best guess to the timeline set in, and screw Rotten Tomatoes. My best guess for when the timeline will be, I'm going to guess in between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. I'm going to guess somewhere in that period in between there. Now, what goes against that theory is that, well, now you're limiting yourself to like 3 seasons because then you're overlapping into Empire Strikes Back. That's the argument against it. But I think it's a really rich potential period for good storytelling. So that would be my guess. Of course, there's other options like Underworld. There's options like Old Republic. There's options like, there's a whole ton of options. We'll have to just wait and see how that comes out. Let's see. This one comes to us from Jonathan S. Shun, who writes, John, when do you think the Obi-Wan movie will be announced? Well, let's remember it's not even official that it's happening, 100%. But I have a feeling probably they will announce it shortly after The Last Jedi. I have a feeling, and while Last Jedi is still in theaters, because I think they're going to get The Last Jedi in theaters. It'll be in theaters for like 2 weeks, and then to put Star Wars back in front of everybody's faces, they'll announce. They will announce the Obi-Wan Kenobi thing. You know what? Somebody has reminded me that there was a question I forgot to take. What was the question I forgot to take? I can't remember. But let's move on to this. Oh, it had something to do with... Let me just check on this for a second. Did I miss a question? I don't think I missed a question. Oh my gosh, I did miss a question. Okay, you know what? Let me do this one question really quick. My apologies, guys. Let me do this one question quickly. And I don't think I have a graphic for it. My bad. But here's the question. The question comes from Walter De Silva. And Walter De Silva wrote, I'm a huge movie fan and love the superhero genre. I'm starting to hear more chatter about the Infinity War trailer. In my opinion, if it drops this week, that will be nothing more than a bully tactic. I love the MCU, but I would be disappointed in them and would wait a few weeks after Infinity War comes out before I go to give the theaters a bigger piece of the pie as my protest. What do you think? Okay, so what Walter De Silva is talking about is, okay, if this week, the week that Justice League is actually coming out, if Marvel drops their Infinity War trailer this week, is that a bully tactic? Is that Marvel bullying Justice League? I've got to say no, it's not. Even if they do it, it's not. Because if they don't drop it this week, they've got to drop it another week when there's other movies opening. Would that be them bullying other movies? Look, Justice League put out their last trailer. I believe the last big trailer came out on October 8th. That was the week that Idris Elba movie, The Mountain Between Us, I think it's called, opened. Was that Warner Brothers bullying Fox? Was that Warner Brothers bullying The Mountain Between Us? Like, oh, come on, we're trying to get attention for our movie, The Mountain Between Us, and you drop a Justice League movie or Justice League trailer that's going to take all the attention away. Is that? No. That was just Warner Brothers dropping a trailer for when they thought was best for their movie. Look, this window of time between Thor Ragnarok and Justice League, everybody is talking about comic book movies right now with Justice League and Thor Ragnarok. This would be a logical time to drop an Infinity War trailer. I still don't think they will. I think they're still a little ways away from dropping an Infinity War trailer. But if they did drop a trailer right now, this is the best time to drop it. The movie world is buzzing with 2 major comic book movies out right now with Thor Ragnarok and Justice League. This would just be a good move. Disney will do what is best for Disney. Just as Warner Brothers will do what is best for Warner Brothers, Sony will do what is best for Sony. And if Disney feels like, you know what is best, you know what's going to get us our most bang for our buck? If we drop an Infinity War trailer right now. With everybody buzzing about Justice League and Thor Ragnarok, this is a good time to drop this trailer. I'm not saying that's what they're doing. But if they did, they're not doing it to try to screw DC. They're doing it because it would be what's best for their movie. Just like Justice League dropped their trailer when they thought it was the best time to drop it. They weren't trying to bully The Mountain Between Us. They weren't trying to bully other movies or whatever. They just dropped their trailer when they thought it was best for them. And honestly, I think that's all Disney would be doing if they dropped their trailer right now. But we'll have to see about that. All right, sorry that I missed that question a little bit earlier on. Let me get back to the tweets now. The next live tweet comes to us from Majin Goku Black, who writes, John, do you and Ann follow the sitcom Big Bang Theory? This is one of those situations where I'm really in the minority, guys. I watched about 6 or 7 episodes of Big Bang Theory. I don't find it funny at all. And I don't think the people who write that show actually know anything about geek culture or nerds. I just got the feeling they're people who have a nephew who's a nerd and they kind of wrote something about that. And I know lots of people love it, so I'm not trash talking the show. I'm just saying it didn't work for me. So no, neither Ann or I really follow that show. Let's see. Next one comes to us from Matt Light 19, who writes, John, Rotten Tomatoes will do this with The Last Jedi next month and possibly Greatest Showman. I hope enough fans speak up and send a very loud message to Rotten Tomatoes. Do not screw us with the faith that we've put in you. Don't put the consumer trust we've put in you and take that consumer trust and then use it as a knife to stab us in the back or to manipulate us or to force us, to strong arm us into going and watching that show of yours that none of us want to watch. I really hope they get that message. If they pull this shit again, I just don't know. I just don't know. Let's see. Topher Dahl writes, John, why not just use Metacritic instead of Rotten Tomatoes? There is a legitimate out there. There is a legitimate option out there. Why not use it? No, look, Metacritic is a totally legitimate option. I vastly prefer the purity of the Rotten Tomatoes system. The purity of somebody either recommends you see the movie or somebody doesn't recommend you see the movie. What percentage of all the vastly different movie opinions out there and all the vastly different movie critics who have totally different opinions from each other, what percentage of them would say, yes, we recommend this movie? I don't care if you super loved it or sort of loved it. Just tell me if you recommend it. There's something about the purity of that scale that I really appreciate. So that's why I like their scale, their metric a little bit better. But yeah, if Rotten Tomatoes does this again, I might completely become all about Metacritic. I might completely become about Metacritic. Let's see. Next question comes to us from Ashley Bauer 2008 writes, John, The Greatest Showman is giving a Moulin Rouge greatness vibes, in my opinion. What are your thoughts? I talked about The Greatest Showman on yesterday's episode of the Movie News feed. I think this is one of my most anticipated movies left in the year, other than Star Wars. Greatest Showman looks nothing short of awesome. It looks so awesome, and you're totally right. It totally gives me a Moulin Rouge feel. Now, Moulin Rouge did not get in my top 10 favorite films of all time, but it's in my top 20. I adore Moulin Rouge, and Greatest Showman totally has that feel. I thought the trailer, I tweeted this out the other day. I thought the trailer for The Greatest Showman is better than 70% of the movies that came out this year. I loved it. I cannot wait to see The Greatest Showman. I think it's going to be awesome. Let's try this. R. Drago66 writes, what performances do you not understand what the actor was going for? I refuse to believe that Jesse Eisenberg was trying to come across as that dumb. I mean, who knows? You never really know. I mean, we all have performances that we don't think quite work for us, and that's totally fine. Let's see. Next one comes to us from Movie Buff 100. Writes, John, if Justice League is a success, if a success as big success, I'm not quite sure, who will you give the most praise to, Snyder or Whedon? Well, here's the thing. What I have been hearing from a lot of people is that this movie, Justice League, which is getting positive responses, feels more like a Marvel film than it feels like Batman versus Superman. You got to take that in consideration. Now, you don't know until you see the movie. But once you see the movie, you'll have to determine for yourself. Number one, did I like it? If I did, great. Now, do I feel that this movie feels more like Batman versus Superman? Or do I feel like this movie feels more like a Marvel film? Which Joss Whedon was one of the architects of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you come out of the film really liking it and you say to yourself, no one else says this to you, but you say to yourself, this one felt more like a Marvel film than it felt like a BVS movie. Not totally like a Marvel film, but if this is the meter, it kind of leaned a little bit more towards a Marvel film, then you'll probably have to make sure you give a lot of the credit to Joss Whedon for making it that way. Because clearly, that's his style. Snyder's style, we've become very accustomed to Snyder's style. We know what that is now. If we come out of Justice League and we say, like, no, that felt just like Batman versus Superman, and it was great, then you got to go the other way. You got to give more of the credit to Zack Snyder. My simple answer to that is this. This is a movie of two directors. Ben Affleck put it perfectly. Ben Affleck said, this is a movie of two directors. And I think both of them, if the movie turns out as good as we hope it is, I think both of them deserve a good amount of credit. So I think that's just the easiest way to do it. Let's see. Why can't I get this to come? Here we go. H. Yenny B writes, John, is there any news about the X-Men Dark Phoenix, which should be released next year? No, they wrapped production. It's in post-production. There's really nothing new to talk about. We're now just in a waiting period for the movie to get finished. So they finished production on the film. It's all done. It's all wrapped. It's in editing, post-production, music, all that kind of stuff. Visual effects is being done now. So really, no news. We shouldn't expect any news for a while now because everything's done. It's on its way. We'll just have to wait. Let's see. Florian Stumpf writes, John, what's wrong with Cyborg's introduction? I liked it. Oops, my camera seems to go away. Not sure why. Let me try this. Yeah, for whatever reason, my camera just kind of decided to switch off there for a second. Sorry about that. I'm back. What's wrong with Cyborg's introduction? It was terrible. That's what was wrong with Cyborg's introduction. It was awful. That whole mother box scene. Now, I'm not talking about his introduction in Justice League. I'm talking about his introduction in Batman vs. Superman. I thought the Flash introduction was fine. The Aquaman introduction needed some work. But I thought, yeah, the Cyborg one was just terrible. And it looked like a 1997 sci-fi TV show visual effects. And it was just kind of corny. It's like, oh, all of a sudden there's just a mother box there. It did not feel right to me. Now, if it worked for you, that's great. I'm really happy if it worked for you. For me, and I'm somebody who likes Batman versus Superman, but for me, it did not work. Let's see. Next one comes to us from Mike Semino, who writes, John, I feel because Justice League is a big movie, people are overlooking Ben's assaulting two furls on camera. Well, look, the reason I'm not talking about that is because if you really read the stories, like one of those girls actually came out and defended Ben Affleck, saying, look, you don't understand the situation, blah, blah, blah. The other thing was, if I understand the situation right, is that that other incident happened a ton of years ago. And everybody already knew about it. It was already public. It was on camera. Everybody knew about it, and everybody moved on from it. And then everybody just decided to bring it back up again now. If I understand it right, maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe I'm totally wrong about that. If I am, I haven't really looked into it all that much, just because on the surface, from what I understood, it's something that this isn't like it's the first time people found out about it. It was public knowledge before because it was on camera, and everybody knew about it, and then everybody moved past it. and then it was brought up again now. If there's more to it than that, I just don't know about it. So I deeply apologize if I'm getting any of those facts wrong, whatever. But I disagree with you that because Justice League is a big deal, people are overlooking it. I think the bigger deal it is, the more people want to pay attention to it. So that's just the way I see it. I'm not really sure. But again, I mean, it just highlights the importance of what's going on today and the importance of what's going on with, within these circles within Hollywood, but every industry, not just the entertainment industry. Every industry has to deal with this. And I think it's really healthy for the industry that a lot of this stuff is coming to light now, because things don't change if things don't come to light, and things obviously need to change. Let's see. And just 2 more questions today. Let's see. Where did it go? There it is. Here Andrew writes, John, would a Flashpoint movie be a good transition from Affleck to the new actor? Maybe. It might be a little too corny for the audience. I think it might just be better just to recast. I really do. I think it'd just be better to recast. Let's see. And the last question I'll take today comes from Vegeta Solo 1, who writes, John, hey there, John. I was wondering if a movie gets a bad score on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and a good score from, and then it got cut off. Sorry, dude. I can't read it. Sorry. Oh, well. That's it. I'm done. That's it for today. I've ranted and raved about Rotten Tomatoes and everything else that's going on. But anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for joining me here today on the John Campea Show. I really appreciate you guys taking time to sit here, join with me. I'm sure there's a lot of things I said that you totally agree with and think I'm a genius. I'm sure there's a number of things I said that you think I'm totally insane and completely wrong about. But that's the fun thing about being a movie fan, is we get to have these discussions and debates. And really, my job as a film pundit, I say this all the time, but it's true. My job as a film pundit, because I don't want you to feel bad about disagreeing with me. My job is not to say things that you agree with. My job is to say what my opinion is and express it in such a way that helps you better understand why you agree with me, or helps you better understand why you disagree with me. That's the job of a pundit, to give an opinion and present it in such a way that helps you focus and sharpen your own opinion, whether it's the same as mine or completely different in mine. And if I can help you do that, even if it's making you disagree with me more, then I'm happy. Then that's awesome. And we are all still fellow film fans together. And that's the great thing about the movie world. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for joining me. While you're here, make sure you click the thumbs up button. Make sure you also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done that yet. Follow me on social media, on Facebook and Twitter, simply at John Campea, that you can see down there. Again, guys, just so you know, it is Tuesday, the best day of the week, which means we're going to go to Star Wars Talk Tuesdays today at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's just like this show, except it's all Star Wars talk all the time. Star Wars Talk Tuesday today at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you can't make it live, don't worry. It'll be up on my YouTube channel. And of course, another installment of the movie news feed is going to go up a little bit later today. Lots of stuff going on here. So that'll do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.